Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin out of Ottawa, where the federal government has announced new regulations aimed at cutting methane emissions. The goal is to significantly reduce greenhouse gas output. Olivia Stefanovich has the details.
Just weeks after the federal government backed a potential new bitumen pipeline from Alberta to the West Coast, it's announcing new regulations targeting the most potent major greenhouse gas emitted by the oil and gas industry, methane. These new regulations would ban the intentional release of methane and require inspections to find and repair leaks. But the industry doesn't necessarily have to follow these new rules if they can demonstrate that their facilities meet international methane standards. And if that's the case, operators can come up with their own solutions to reduce methane emissions. So too can provinces, something that the environment minister is defending, as she also pushes back on the suggestion that the government is failing to meet its climate goals.
I will actually push back on the idea that today is about dilly-dallying. In fact, I'm really excited about today because today is actually where we put into action regulations that are going to reduce the methane emissions in our country. It is one of the most important things that we can do and one of the most cost-effective things that we can do.
Ottawa wants to reduce methane emissions in this country by 75% from 2012 levels by 2030. But it's giving provinces wiggle room if they can demonstrate a plan that meets an equivalent standard. For example, Ottawa is working with Alberta on a plan to reduce methane emissions in that province 5 years after the federal target. And along with the fossil fuel industry, the federal government is targeting landfills, which produce a smaller portion of methane emissions. The federal government also says that since methane regulations were first introduced in 2018, the oil and gas industry, its extraction revenues have increased by more than 70%, while Canada has been able to maintain its methane reduction targets. These new enhanced measures take effect starting on January 1st, 2028. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
In Nunavut, the Grays Bay Road and Port project is raising alarms for one conservation scientist. He worries about the safety of marine wildlife in the area. The project involves the creation of a deep water port at Grays Bay, Nunavut. It would allow large ships to dock and transport critical minerals out of the area. Conservation scientist William Halliday says an increase in shipping could have a negative effect on wildlife due to underwater noise.
Then there are much larger consequences. It can cause increased stress, for example, which could have long-term health impacts on the animals. If there was enough noise exposure, we could be talking about things like hearing damage.
Halliday says some of the animals that could be impacted include ringed and bearded seals, as well as Arctic char. Going forward, Halliday says it's important that possible impacts on marine wildlife are included in the project's environmental review. West-Kitimute Resources Corporation, which is spearheading the project, says those effects will be included as part of the review, with guidelines set to be finalized by the end of January. The Northwest Territories government has released its response to the after-action review recommendations related to the 2022 flooding of Hay River and Katlodeche First Nation. Carla Ulrich has that story.
The territorial government says it has accepted or partially accepted all but one of 33 after-action recommendations. The release came Monday as a response to the review made by Stantec earlier this year. The only recommendation the territory rejects is for a standalone agency to manage emergency responses, saying that the recommendation is neither necessary nor practical, and that they already have an emergency management organization within MACA.
I would rather see, more emphasis put on emergency management than administration, right? And if I can be a little bit more blunt, then we don't need a new deputy minister and assistant deputy minister for a standalone department where we can operate that within municipal and community affairs. So essentially, we're doing it. We're just not having its own department.
One resident doesn't feel so hopeful about the recommendations. After his Paradise Valley house suffered extensive damage in the 2022 flood, Ray Coombs felt left out in the cold by Maca.
I don't think they were there for me. I spent a lot of money out of my own pocket to get the house back to where it was. The money that they said they were going to give us, they kind of cut it in half. So I feel like a bit of a slap in the face. Our insurance company turned their back on us, and then, GNWT said they were going to give us so much money, and then they turned around and said, no, we decided not to give you that anymore. So everybody got the same amount of money, right? Some people had a little bit of water damage, got the same amount of money as what we got.
The flood triggered an evacuation affecting nearly 4,000 people, with a cost of that response and recovery to be a total of $93.6 million. The government report also says many recommendations have already been acted on or are now being addressed, and that these responses show a clear commitment to strengthen emergency preparedness across the NWT. Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Yellowknife.
A 37-year-old man is facing second-degree murder charges in connection with a homicide in Arviat, Nunavut. Arviat RCMP say they responded to a report of an unresponsive 48-year-old man inside a residence at 2:30 a.m. on Monday. He was taken to a local health center where he was later pronounced dead. Officers say they arrested a man at the scene who knew the victim. Nunavut RCMP's major crime unit is in Arviat to help with the investigation. The suspect's next court appearance is set for January 6th in Iqaluit. The new Yukon government says it will not reopen the warming center for vulnerable people in the Jim Smith building. The center was part of the previous government's downtown Whitehorse Safety Response Action Plan. The old cafeteria at the legislature was opened as a warm space from March to May of 2024, and then again from November 2024 to April of this year. It also offered other essential services like harm reduction supplies and support for accessing social programs. Press Secretary Tim Kaczmarek told CBC in an email that there's no evidence that people who need these services can't access them elsewhere, including at the Whitehorse Public Library and the emergency shelter, among other places. But the official opposition House leader says services can't be located all in one place.
I mean, we've all seen how cold it's been for the last week, and it's not set to warm up anytime soon. I really can't imagine what it's like to not have a warm place to go right now. Like, that is just, it's not even something that's nice. It's a matter of survival right now. So people absolutely need warm places to go. One of the pieces that the Yukon party's talked a lot about for downtown is decentralizing services, so everyone's who needs support services isn't being pulled into one place. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Lots of people have different needs, and having different places makes sense. Well, this was a different place. It wasn't in a space where other services were concentrated, and I think giving people lots of access points around downtown and around the city makes a lot of sense. So I think that's a missed opportunity.
The old cafeteria space is now being converted into offices. British Columbia is facing another round of dangerously wet weather. Metro Vancouver, Vancouver Island, and the Fraser Valley are taking the brunt yet again. It comes after days of storms, including some powerful winds on Monday that became deadly. The CBC's Yasmin Renea reports.
After days of heavy wind and rain in BC's Fraser Valley, tragedy struck. Police say a woman was killed by a falling tree on Monday. It happened around 3 p.m. local time at a regional park in Chilliwack.
At that particular moment, the wind had stirred up something fierce. It was heavy rain, and everything was very volatile at that time.
Police say the 27-year-old was with her 2 young children at the time who were not hurt. Darren Clark didn't witness the incident but often walks through the park and saw police there Monday.
So close to Christmas, I just feel for the family. It's a tough one.
The woman's death took place during a fierce windstorm. Environment Canada says wind gusts reached 66 kilometers per hour in Chilliwack Monday afternoon. Other parts of the Fraser Valley saw winds up to 100 kilometers per hour. Downed trees and power lines left thousands in the region without power Monday, and some outages continued Tuesday. The Fraser Valley has been battling heavy rain for nearly a week, which has flooded homes and businesses and killed some livestock. And the showers continue, so do the threats of more flooding and landslides. Environment Canada is forecasting up to 70 millimeters of rain in the Fraser Valley and other parts of Lower Mainland, with more rain expected for the rest of the week. Yasmin Ghanea, CBC News, Chilliwack, British Columbia.
A handful of schools in the NWT have tested positive for elevated lead levels in drinking water. Now, the territory's top doctor is recommending daycare centers test as well. At least one daycare in Yellowknife has reported safe drinking water under Health Canada standards for lead levels. The Yellowknife Daycare Association paid for a specialist to test 3 drinking water samples last week after some parents expressed concern. All samples from the association passed. Its executive director says those tests were money well spent, but the NWT government could do more to support daycare centers with this issue.
I know EC is pretty overwhelmed with the schools right now and focusing on areas that have tested positively, but putting out a guide to daycare centers on how to test by themselves would be great. I mean, I researched a lot to find the information, but it would be helpful.
The NWT government says it does not pay for daycares to get their water tested. It says private businesses are responsible for ensuring they have safe drinking water. But it is reviewing how other places in Canada handle similar situations. The NWT government says that review will help inform future decisions.
If there's one thing I know about Canadians, it's that we're kind. We want to help.
It doesn't take a big star.
Or millions of dollars.
All it takes is one can.
$1.
Or even 1 hour of your time.
In every corner of this country, people give.
To their friends, to their families, to total strangers.
And this season, we will give again.
Starting December 5th, help us make the season kind.
Find ways to give to food banks in your community at cbc.ca/kind.
Choose clicks. Choose the algorithm. Choose doom scrolling at 3 a.m. Choose headlines that scream. Choose fake friends, deep fakes, and comment wars that never end. Choose the chaos. Choose the noise. Or don't. Choose news that's checked, verified, accountable. Choose being there where the stories are. Choose proof over panic. Sense over madness. Choose news, not noise.
Where does bravery live? It lives inside Cynthia Appia, who refuses to let the high cost of sports slow her down.
Welcome to the assembly.
Hell yeah, let's go.
What made you want to be interviewed by 40 neurodivergent interviewers?
Whoa.
This is the most authentic conversation.
Oh, you make me cry.
It's now been 10 years since the trauma of residential schools was laid out for Canadians. In 2015, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its final report and 94 calls to action. The Minister of Northern and Arctic Affairs says when it comes to the calls to action, there is work to come, but it's important to acknowledge the work that's been done so far.
When I think about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and it being 10 years since then, I think about the lived experience of survivors and how they changed the landscape of this country with the truth telling that they've done. And I don't think we can ever, go back to denialing at the scale that we did with their bravery in sharing those stories. And I also recognize there's still a ways to go. And that is, that is the work that so many of us continue to carry out on a day-to-day basis, whether it's through work or our homes. Yeah, that work is ongoing. What we've saw is that, calls to action 1 to 5. I think about my own experience in fostering children or being a foster child and how important it is to reform, child welfare. Ensuring that we're keeping families together, that we're focusing on prevention, service delivery, kinship care, and wraparound support. So I think we have done some work on that. I mean, it's going to take a couple generations, as the former Senator Sinclair has stated. Education got us into this mess, and education is going to get us out. So, unfortunately, we continue to bear the responsibility of having to continue to share those stories and bring Canadians along. But I do feel we have been moving the needle, and it's important to celebrate those wins as well. My priorities continue to be the children, education, language, health, because that's where the harm of residential school, where it was concentrated. And we could see that the healing is happening, faster for some than others. I've been a foster child, I've fostered other children. And we still need to work together, like to build those strong foundations from which our children can emerge.
One act of truth and reconciliation in the North comes in the form of a podcast. It's called How I Survived, and it explores the stories of residential school survivors and what role recreation played in their experiences. This fall, the team behind the podcast visited communities as part of a listening tour. We spoke with them on our recent trip to Fort McPherson NWT, and we'll play that interview again for you tonight. But first, I want to let everyone know that this conversation talks about residential school experiences, including difficult topics like assault. Please take care. If you could tell me, just introduce this project to us, the podcast, how it came about and what you're hoping to achieve with it.
So How I Survived started in 2018. And a part of our goal was to better understand residential school histories in the North, specifically through the lens of sport and recreation. And the project has always been guided by an advisory committee of mostly survivors and intergenerational survivors. And the podcast was actually not in the books in the beginning. We were hoping to do a traveling exhibit that looked at the history of sport and recreation, but COVID happened, and really at the base of the story, at the base of the project is our stories and orality and storytelling. And so during COVID, when we were revisioning the project, it made sense to focus on what we were hearing. So that's when we transitioned to a podcast, which we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary. And Jess can tell you about the number of downloads that we've had, but it's been very successful. And really what we're trying to accomplish is not only reviving storytelling among Indigenous communities in the North, but also making a contribution to the larger histories of residential schools in Canada in this larger context of truth and reconciliation. And of course, always having survivors guide us in that process.
I mean, I'll jump to Jess if you want to tell me about the success of the podcast, who's been listening, and how do you track that kind of thing?
Well, I'm not a big computer nerd, so I would say that my handle on the analytics is fairly basic. But we've had more than 2,000 downloads of the first season. So there are 7 episodes in season 1. And the neat thing is anytime there's sort of even a little bit of buzz, if someone shares about it on social media or if we do a presentation, we see a nice uptick in downloads. So really what we're trying to do is just find ways to let people know about the podcast, whether that's through social media or doing community listening events, which is what brought us to Tête Léger Fort McPherson.
You had mentioned an advisory council, and I understand, Sharon, you're part of that advisory council. So tell me about your role in this whole project.
Okay, my role in this whole project is to, when I finish speaking, to go on AI so it shows that I spoke proper. I'm just kidding. I learned to send stuff over to my brother. So anyways, with this project, in the beginning, it was terrifying. You know, I just thought that I would crumble and wouldn't be a strong person. But I didn't think only of myself. I think of all the people out there, all the Indigenous kids and what they've been through. Some survived. Many committed suicide. I'm still here living and breathing. So I thought maybe if I shared my story, it would help others. And most of all, it helped me because in life, where we go through ups and downs and goods and bads, and that's just life, and to learn to benefit from the good stuff and to share that. And another thing that we haven't touched on is because of all this horrible things that happened through residential school, bullying came out of it. And bullying is harmful. It causes pain and suffering. It takes away your self-esteem, and it makes you feel unworthy. I don't want to be like that. So if I can help people to be strong and just a little bit on the bully side, bullying doesn't happen single-handedly. There's always a group. So those our bullies are like that. They destroy, and our people have gone through enough. We can't do that to them. Yeah.
Sharon, if you don't mind, tell me about the process of sharing your story in this, podcast in this public way. Tell me what that was like for you.
The process, well, for me, I jump all over the place. So I had to learn how to talk as the way things happen. And even though I got beaten up so much in the head, I have a brilliant memory, so I could tell my stories from start to finish. And if I missed something out, I'd have to backtrack and then bring that forward. And I think it's really like to really be honest with yourself. Because when you're going through pain and suffering, you can make your stories up. But that's not what we're trying to do. We want to tell the truth, and we want to support every person that comes in contact with us so they can share their story and be strong.
Crystal, I'll ask you why. I mean, we're in Fort McPherson right now. I know you're traveling to other communities as well. Why these communities for this project?
Well, for me personally, it's always about coming home, working with my nation, the Gwich'in Tribal Council, but also upholding and honoring the stories that sit in this region more broadly. So, for example, we know the two residential schools in Aklavik really drew a lot of children from all over the north, but then especially with the increase in aviation and with the opening of the massive residential schools in Inuvik, Grolier Hall, and Stringer Hall, those policies really intensified. And so this area is a hub for residential schools, not to mention Fleming Hall, which used to be here in this community of Fort McPherson. And so these lands and these people hold a lot of stories, and there are so many connections that can be made. Even though we're in the Arctic and it seems to be far away from a lot of places, almost every Canadian that I talk to knows about our homelands. They have heard about Inuvik. They have had relatives who have come here either as a survivor or as a government worker or a teacher. So this place is really meaningful, not only in the local context, but also nationally.
Sharon, I mean, you're a very famous athlete, so recreation played a big role in your life, but it stemmed from something that was very difficult. If you're comfortable sharing about that relationship of having this sport that you're so brilliant at, but it coming from a place of maybe some difficulty, if that's fair to say.
Well, I'll start off with the positive, because sport, at our young age, we always played outside. We didn't need facilities. We didn't need baseball fields. We didn't need this and that. The biggest thing about that was we played to have fun. We skied to have fun. And that's, what we needed inside us, to have that joy and peace and knowing that we're going to get along with each other. But I can never believe to this very day that I made it to 4 Olympics. And it's from the support that I got from our communities. Our people were suffering, and yet Shirley and I brought them great joy. And that's what I'm made of, to bring joy to people.
Can you talk to me about the continued role of recreation in communities as well, and how important it is for kids to have outlets like that in our northern communities?
Well, when you're involved in recreation, you're going to make friends, and it's friends for yesterday, today, tomorrow, for a lifetime. And you encourage and help one another. And that's what sports and recreation is all about, getting involved and seeing what's out there and not be afraid of trying. And who knows, you might be an Olympian like me.
If you or someone you know is struggling, there's help. You can call the National Indian Residential School Crisis Line toll-free at the number on your screen. That is 1-866-925-4419. That line is available 24/7. NWT Housing Minister Lucy Kaptana has announced she intends to run for chair of the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation. That news came in a statement from NWT Premier R.J. Simpson this hour. In the statement, he says Kaptana informed him of the decision earlier today. Simpson says he has reassigned her portfolios to avoid a conflict of interest. That will take effect tomorrow. Simpson will take on the housing portfolio for now, and Lisa Semler will take on the status of women portfolio. Simpson says he's also asked Kaptana to voluntarily refrain from participating in cabinet and cabinet committee meetings, from using ministerial resources, and from representing herself as a minister of the GNWT for the duration of her candidacy. Michael Vandal has been re-elected as chief of Dega-Goti First Nation in the Northwest Territories. The result has been confirmed by the First Nation's returning officer, Lee Tom. Vandal has been chief of Dega-Goti First Nation since 2021. He was running against Ronald Bonnet Rouge. Bonnet Rouge is a former chief of the First Nation and served as Dutcho MLA from 2019 to 2023. And more than a month after Nunavut's general election, the constituency of Agu now has a new MLA. Edward Aptegutaluk won the election with nearly half the votes on Monday. In a Facebook post, he said he wants to work with people in Igloolik to represent their community. This election comes after a recount ended with a tie between the only two candidates in late October. 4 additional candidates registered for the new election. Aptegutaluk did not run in the October election. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.